Sorry.
No, you can cover me up, I'm good.
Really?
This is the time where we got to make a decision here to vote yea or nay or whatever. But them classes I take, they said people moving to Florida 1,000 a day. This used to be the forgotten coast, but it ain't forgotten no more. We out there. People got land, they gonna build on it. Pleasure to vote.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to ask a question if I may.
Go ahead.
Amy, if you know, at what point did this area become known as Shell Bay subdivision?
I believe it was
It's
sometime
around
in the early-
2005 or so.
So pre the crash, the recession of 2008, okay. I just wanted to know.
Do we have enough information to proceed with a vote, or should we be thinking about this more?
I got enough, I don't know about the rest. You just can't keep putting off. Gotta do what we
I
gotta
know
do,
that.
that's what the people put us in there. Gonna be the same information we get the next time, or
True.
no more, no less.
See, there's, you know, there's, I know we're in a procedural issue about considering a rezoning, and we're not in a site development stage, but there are two high-quality points here. I think one, I brought up about affordable housing money. The other one is in recognition of the neighbors who have existing property already that they bought for years, that perhaps there should be some sort of a buffer built into this system to preserve the integrity of the neighbor's property in the peripheral of this area. But I guess what I'm struggling is I don't know that that's appropriate to suggest contingent upon our vote on this. What do you, or and you had a potential solution, Mr. Attorney?
Yes, sir. Concerning buffers for any potential development, the board would, I think, be in a better position to make the decision on whether buffers are put in place between the new development and the existing properties or not during the site plan approval process, not necessarily during the rezoning process. So typically that is where you would address that being site plan review of a development application is when you would consider buffering and things of that nature to protect the adjacent properties, not necessarily during a rezoning hearing.
Well, then, I think the spirit of my thinking is that this, we just now went into public comment, and it's on the record that we have the intention of looking very carefully at that site plan development. And I just don't want it forgotten. So with that in mind, I'm willing to make a motion that we approve the petitioner's rezoning request.
We got a motion on the floor by Commissioner Byrd,
Second.
second by Commissioner Master. Any more discussion? All ready to vote? All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed?
I oppose.
That passes 4-1.
I want to emphasize the spirit of what we just did. I know it's informal, but I'm looking forward to the transparency of the good development of this site.
And Commissioner, just to clarify for the record, the three lots that we had discussed earlier are omitted from the rezoning decision that you just made. Those were the two lots owned by Cherie Wood, and then the third lot that was owned by, just
Thomas.
wait for it. Dan,
Thomas.
the other lot owner, Tom, the other one that's,
Chuck Thomas, and he's already actually rezoned. He's
I
what,
can't hear both of them.
Chuck.
And the Chuck Thomas parcel is also omitted from the rezone decision.
Okay,
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
all right. Next on the agenda, got another public hearing, it'll be the readers.
Yes, sir. This morning we have a public hearing for Susan Reeder. Consideration of a request is rezone a .29 acre parcel from C1 commercial fishing to C3 commercial recreation. parcel is located at 332 Patton Drive, East Point, Franklin County, Florida. Request submitted by Susan Reeder, the applicant.
Okay. And this is the same. This is a public hearing, right?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Call for the public.
Does that conclude your presentation, Ms. Amy? Does
I read the request. I
Okay.
can-
the applicant have any presentation?
She here?
In
The applicant
essence,
has no presentation. I guess call for public comment, Mr. Chairman.
Any public comment? Any public comment? Play. You want to talk? Go ahead.
Hey, I'm Susan Reeder, and the reason I'm asking it to be rezoned from a C1 to a C3 is because we've been in the seafood industry for years. No, not just me, my father before me and my grandfather. He was in the fishing and the oysters, and so we've been in it probably a total of maybe 50, 60 years in all. But due to the issues of the bay now and no oysters right now, that we can't get no oysters. I don't even think anybody's oystering today on Camp Point, from what I heard. Well, we're at a place where we're just like out of business, and there's nothing else to do. So we're just trying to see if we can get this changed from a C1 to a C3 so we can transition into this other project that we're wanting to do. So we don't know what else to do but this. So I'm just asking if y'all would consider going from a C1 to a C3 so we could do the other project, which would make it where we could do the 4 cottage or little houses that we're wanting to try to make work and see if we can, get something going again and not just sit home and do nothing. Because there's nothing else, like I said, that we know to do other than that. So I'm just asking or requesting that y'all would consider this and change it from a C1 to a C3.
Okay. Okay. Any more? We understand that causing a hardship on you right now, that with oysters going, right?
Yes, sir, it is a hardship. I've been trying to get some LA oysters. I really can't hardly get none of them. When I call to try to buy some, I'm told there's not hardly any of them. And if there was oysters, we'd still be doing the oysters because we've done it for so many years. So it's not like we're just trying to transition just to do it. We're doing it, out of hardship, out of necessity to try to continue working and not just sit home and do nothing because, we still need to pay our bills and work. So that's basically kind of where it is.
Okay. All right, Ms. Reeder. Is there anybody else want me to talk? Any of your family members?
They're letting me cover it for them.
Okay. Okay, anybody from the public? Nobody from the public? All right, let's get a vote. Ms.
Yes.
Reeder,
That's a question, Mr. Chairman.
go ahead.
Miss Susan, for you guys to do this, you're gonna have to tear down your existing building, correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
And I have talked to my neighbors, and the ones I've talked with are fine with it.
all adjacent property owners were notified, and it has been placed in the paper for 2 weeks as well.
It's gonna be hard to tear that down, ain't it?
Oh, yeah.
That's a lot of memories.
I'm sure we'll get some videos, sweet, good and bad videos of it, so for memories.
Okay. Let's get a vote.
Mr. Chairman,
Go ahead.
Amy, Miss Amy, could you give us the conditions of this? I know there's some, I'm worried about the floodplain.
Yes, sir.
The flood
what they are proposing is a 4-unit cottage, sort of like the Coastline RV Park. They have 3 or 4 cottages on their property. Those are short-term transient stay. During the named tropical storm event, though, when EOC starts advertising that they need to be RVs and stuff need to be evacuating, those are items that have to be evacuated. These cottages can be below base flood elevation. They have to be tagged road ready in the event that there is a storm, that they have to be moved out. They have to be moved off-site into a safe and secure environment. If they have loans on these RVs, insurance requires them to move it out or they will not cover it. They still have a loan that they still have to pay, but they are required to move it.
And if they don't, will our flood insurance go up?
If they don't move it, it's, we would not allow them to put anything back there as far as the short-term transient. Because the floodplain ordinance states that in the event that they don't obey that ordinance, then we can do a chapter 1316 or 1613, which could go to the court system, and they would not be allowed to use that site for that appropriate use.
But our insurance rates across the county will not go up if they choose not to move those.
It shouldn't be a factor. I can check into that to make sure. We have not done commercial site plan review at this point. So tomorrow they go through a variance process, and on the 10th, they'll go through commercial site plan approval at planning and zoning. So in the meantime, I will contact ISO and find out if, in the event that they do not move them, that what would that do to our rating?
I think that's that's information we need
Yes, sir.
to make an informed decision and not make a decision based on what I want to know what's going to happen.
Yes, sir. And I will.
Should
call
that not
today.
happen, I mean,
Well, I can assure you that in case of a tropical storm or bad weather, as soon as we're told to do this, we would do it immediately. We would not leave it there to be destroyed, devastated. We're having to pay for this. So that would not make sense at all to leave it. And we already have a plan to pull them out and where to take them. They can be disconnected in a matter of about 45 minutes, is what I've been told. So, no, we would not leave them. They would definitely be moved because we wouldn't want it destroyed.
that's good to have that on the record,
Yes, sir.
that you state
And-
that.
Yes, sir.
And one thing is, I did visit Coastline RV Park when we started getting complaints about it. I visited their site, and I was in contact with them during the time whenever they did have to move it and put it back. The ramps and steps are easily detached by a few screws, and the skirting can be easily detached. They're all held by a few screws. They're replaced, put inside, and they're moved off-site. And they have always been in compliance during a tropical storm event. And they're on quick disconnect electrical meters, and where water can't inundate, they're very expensive. And they're also on a quick disconnect sewer system as well.
So moved.
Second.
I got a motion on the floor by Commissioner Masters, second by Commissioner Jones. Any more discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Pass unanimous. You can go.
And I will check on the ISO to make sure that in the event that they do not move them and they're destroyed, how would that classify us and harm our ratings?
Thank
I'll
you,
do that
ma'am.
today.
Yeah.
Thank you, Commissioners.
Yes, ma'am. Okay, next on the agenda, Ms. Marcia Jones.
Got COB, isn't it?
I think we have bid openings next.
Oh, yeah, okay.
Thank you.
I gave my glasses foggy, I'm sorry. Trying to get through.
Trying to get to the end.
Bids and have Clay open them for me.
Close that in
He was just,
We
he
can open
was
bids
just
without
here.
him, go ahead.
there. Need help? Need help?
First, let me read the report from Alan. If you go to the restore report, there's Clay. See, he didn't run away from me. He never would do that. Because I asked him to wear his Sunday best for today, so, since he was coming up to the big mic. The board will be opening bids for the reconstruction of Alligator Drive. Clay Kennedy will be there, actually opening the bids. The board should open the bids and turn them over to Clay for a recommendation. Because this is a complicated project and potentially 8 bidders, I think we got 4, Clay will come back to the September 17th board meeting with a recommendation. Well, guess what? Alan will also be at the 17th board meeting. We'll turn over the recommendations a little bit to FEMA for their approval, and at that point, the project and the timeline are in the hands of FEMA. FCMC will assist in getting FEMA reviewers to stay on the project, but who knows how long that will take, especially if Hurricane Dorian becomes a large disaster, and it's looking like. So, Clay, you step up to the mic. I will open them up, and you can read them out. Read them out. See, I'm not like Alan, I don't need the mic.
How many bidders do we have, Mike?
4.
4? Okay.
Which is good, because then FDOT will be happy, correct, that we got more than 3? FEMA. FEMA will be happy, I'm sorry.
Do we have an extra writing utensil somewhere, sir?
Oh, sure.
Just one.
There you go.
Thank you.
What,
All right, Clay, there you go.
Who is this? Anderson?
This is, yes, Anderson Columbia Incorporated. They look like they have a Mariana, Florida address.
So Anderson, Columbia, $4,710,105.40. 4010105.40.
Commissioner, like Alan said, it is a complicated bid, so I don't think there are any, what's that term we use, Lori?
Bid bond?
Any alternates, but there should be a bid bond in case you guys have questions about the project itself. That's our thought, Clay.
154.
Insurance. And the bid bond.
There is a bid bond?
Yes, sir.
Y'all need that number one more time? Everybody got it?
Got it.
Okay.
Why they got that 54 cent on
You never know.
it? They could've left
Next one
that
is
out.
C.W. Roberts. They're out of Hosford. $6,973,070.10. 6973070.1. And they have their bid bond and insurance information. Next is North Florida Construction. Trying to remember where North Florida is.
Clarksville.
Clarksville?
I think that's where they're from.
$6,966,619.50. 6966619.5.
They want it all, 54, 50.
There's some sixes in that one.
10 cents on one.
Yeah.
Bid bond and insurance are in the packet.
I'm with you, Commissioner. Where does the 10 cents come from, right?
Last one, is Robertson Roberts. They've got offices in Tallahassee and Panama City. They are $5,884,109.08. 5,884,109.08.
Did maybe somebody get the bridge specs and bid on that?
Huh?
No, I'm just-
Oh,
The difference in bid.
Mike, is there a committee set up to
Bid
review
bond.
this?
There is a bid bond.
Goes
Okay.
Go straight to the engineer?
To the engineers for review. So that's the motion we need for you guys to send this to the engineers for their review and recommendation.
I make a motion, we send it to Dewberry. for
Second.
I got a motion on the floor by Commissioner
their Review and come back with a recommendation to the board.
Harris, second by Commissioner Burke.
Yeah, Clay needs to look at that. That's a big difference in that one company. Lord. I'm not getting
And,
Yeah.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? That pass unanimous.
and commissioners know that with that appropriation we got from, I think it was ZO through, you remember, $750,000. Alan and I, even Attorney Shu, we've been talking about what we're gonna spend that money on. We're actually gonna hold on to it and take the lowest bid here and call them back and say for scope of services, that's gonna be the match, okay, for this project. We're gonna use that as a match. I'm sure there's gonna be a FEMA match.
So, you know,
Match for this.
we got low bids in there, but I wanna make sure they can do the work.
Okay, well, how about I send it all forward, so look at somewhere in here that's gonna
I
use
bet-
the scope of services.
I think all these bids are gonna be higher than what FEMA's allowing.
Probably.
That's a better question for Alan.
Yeah.
It's my understanding that they were gonna take the low bid and write the PW based on that
Based on
dollar.
And then we'll turn around and use our match from that $750 based on the low bid, based whichever bid is recommended to you for approval.
As far as that goes.
Yes, sir.
Well, long as they can do the job.
Okay, Commissioner, so I see, oh, sorry, you voted. So I see lunch is coming, and there's one item I want to squeeze in here before we break for lunch, because Aaron won't be back, if that's okay with you, and then we could break, if everybody's good with that?
We gonna order out. Okay, go ahead.
If I'd known, I would have ordered in. I'll either see the little
Order
pizza
that.
guy or someone from the Chinese restaurant coming. So, if you looked earlier, Erin gave you a handout, that she highlighted, a one paragraph handout. It's on a single piece of paper. There you go. Look, you can hold that up, Commissioner. That's what you're looking for.
Right.
This is where you ask her to look at, she's gonna read it here in a second. This is where you ask her to look at the check with the auditor as it refers to that money that it's due in the two in reference to Weems that we advanced them a while back, a few years ago, and it's hanging out there like a loan. And you wanted to know what language the auditor would require to write. Writing it down is not the right term. All right, Aaron, help me.
If the commission wishes to remove the amount due back to the healthcare trust fund, a motion will be needed to effectively remove the $690,000 amount due to and from, as noted in the general ledger in both sets of financials. The adjustment cannot be made retroactive, but can be entered with an effective date of today. And I did check with Roberson and Associates and also Carriggs and Ingram to confirm with both sets of auditors that would work for them, if you all want to do that. If not, it will remain the same.
Like this, hey, the money was spent in the hospital. And that hospital ain't gonna never make no money talking about paying nothing back. They didn't take the money and put it in another. They didn't take the hospital money and spend it on the roads. They spend it on the hospital. That's what it did. That's my opinion. I don't know what's yours.
I'll make a motion to remove this from the financial ledger, both sets of financial.
Got a motion on the floor by
Second.
Commissioner Parrish, second by Commissioner Jones. Any more discussion on that?
I made that motion based on the comments made by the chairman over several meetings that he would like to see this removed.
Yeah, I mean, they do it, it's on the audit, and it just, ain't no number of weapons to keep mess going. Next on the agenda be Ms. Marsha Johnson, clerk of the court.
I don't have a report today, Chairman.
Okay, thank you. Next on the agenda be Mr. Michael Marone sitting in for Allen Pierce.
Yep. Still can't get into today's time, so I'll just read forward.
Sorry about that.
We already addressed item number 1 from his report when we opened the packages. So I'll go straight to item 2. Treasury has noted that Franklin County did not completely comply with the public notice rules regarding the 2 planned studies for dune restoration and stormwater on St. George Island. So the 45-day public notice will have to start all over again. It is a technical issue regarding what was posted on the county's website. Langton Consulting is continuing to work on the project. This 45-day period that we have to do over again will not be a total loss. That timeline actually starts today when I leave the meeting here. Once I notified you, then I go, I put it on the website, I put the packages, the annex up in here in the main courthouse, and then we count 45 days from today. So that's it for Allen's report.
That's it? Okay. Anybody got anything in for, on Allen report?
Real quick, Mr. Chairman, do we not advertise in the paper for the public notice?
I don't think so. I think it's just required on the website, and in the website, you tell them where the envelopes are, 2 sides of the county to pick up. They can go there and review it and put it back. But I'll check and see if we need to do an ad for the newspaper
Yeah, make sure your check goes in.
to make sure that that's paid. Yeah, that's done
Right.
correctly, so we don't start all over again.
Start over.
Well, that's just taking a step further, that's all.
Okay,
As a precautionary measure, I'd put it in there myself.
okay.
And in your advertisement, if you wanna tell the people where the envelopes are in the county website, I mean, that's fine. That's where they'll access the information, but at least it gets it more broader out to the public, I think would be a good idea.
Okay, sure will.
You need a motion for that?
Direction is fine. I think I'm all right with that.
Okay.
All right, any motion? Concerning Allen report, Mr. Pierce report. Okay, next on the agenda will be Mr. Michael Marone, the county coordinator.
And we could jump straight to item number 4. Report, the county has received the State of Florida's Department of Health annual contract for operation of the Franklin County Health Department of the for contract year 2019-2020. This is a standard contract to ensure coordination between the state and the county in operation of the Franklin County Health Department. I will send a copy to Attorney Schuler to verify that there were no significant changes from last year's contract. Board action to authorize the chairman's signature on the contract contingent on Attorney Schuler's review and the approval of the county's 2019-2020 budget and the final budget public hearing scheduled for September 17th at 5:15.
So moved.
Second.
Got a motion on the floor by Commissioner Parrish, second by Commissioner Jones. Any more discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? That passes unanimously.
All right, so item number 5, a few parts to it. It's a Reams action and information items. 5A, as requested at your August 20th meeting, I contacted Mr. Brian Hall Jr. of Carl Riggs and Ingram to request the cost of the operational audit. Mr. Hall explained that the state of Louisiana has mandated a similar engagement for every public hospital in that state, and he will use that model for this request. As part of the audit, they will spend most of the time on billings and collections. Also look at revenue cycle, cash management, point of sale and cash security, vendor payments, management and priority, and payroll. Between gathering and examining the necessary information, interviewing staff, and completing the written reports entailing their findings and recommendations, it will take about 4 weeks from the start date. The fee for this audit is $60,000 plus expenses and could start as early as next week. I've shared this information with your interim CEO, and if there's a desire to reduce the cost of the audit, therefore reducing what information is looked at, he would like the board to consider his priority list before making a final decision.
Pleasure to the board.
Mr. Chairman,
Yeah.
I think we ought to proceed with it just as it's written here.
Okay.
And not make any amendments to it, because we need to know, I wanna know, and I'm sure the board does too, the revenue cycle, the cash management, point of sale, cash security, vendor payments, management and priority, and the payroll. so that we get a true reading of exactly where the hospital is and its financial standing. I think that's the way to go, and based on that, I'm gonna make a motion that we proceed with this audit at the price you've stated here.
Second.
Got a motion on the floor by Commissioner Parrish, second by Commissioner Jones. Any more discussion on
Mr. Chairman,
that? Go ahead.
I believe the leading point here that you make about billings and collections is the whole reason why we're having this discussion. And I would like the audit company to really look carefully at billings and collections, looking at such things as, are we getting prior authorization from insurance companies before we start some of these procedures? And then when we do get, when we are filing claims, are we filing them pristine and clean? And then when the claims are coming back so-called paid, have they really been paid by each line item that has been billed?
Mr. Chairman? And the key to all of this is reports and telling their findings and recommendations to fix some of the problems that they may encounter, that we may be encountering out there. So coming back with a recommendation to us as to how we fix some of these things, such as billings and collection, is key to the whole process.
Yeah, agreed.
And it helps your CEO too, in his role, here.
Yeah, that's what we want, get a true reading and we'll know which way to go.
And Mr. Chairman, Mr. David, do you have any thoughts on this discussion? Just
David Walker, interim CEO. I think it's great that we get this done. It really will give us a deep understanding of what's happening with, our revenue cycle, our billing and collections. That's one of the most important things here we need to look at. So I think this is great that once we get it, and then we want to make sure we have workable recommendations that we can use as a blueprint then to fix what is wrong. Thank you.
Thank you.
okay.
Anything else?
And I will have
Go
him
ahead.
confer with the clerk and her staff before they actually get started to see what her concerns are also.
Okay.
Okay?
Yeah. Are y'all ready to vote?
Yep.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? That passed unanimous.
5B, at the Weems Board of Directors August 29th meeting, there was a discussion about vacant board seats and attendance. Based on that discussion, the Board of Directors decided not to recommend renewing Mr. Henry Kolaski's term, as he had missed quite a few meetings this year. There are also some directors that require the terms to be renewed. The board action not to review Mr. Kolaski's term, renew Doug Creamer's and Duffy Harrison's term, and appoint Ms. Myrna Swin and Mr. Donnie Gay to the Weems Board of Directors for 1-year terms. Ms. Wynn will serve as a District 3's representative, and Mr. Gay will serve as District 1's representative.
Mr. Chairman?
Go ahead.
Mr. Kolaski was formerly District 1's
Yes,
representative,
he was
and he'll be
District
replaced by
1.
Mr. Donnie Gay.
Yes.
So moved.
I got a motion on the floor by Commissioner Parrish.
Second.
Second by Commissioner Massey. Any more discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? That passed unanimous.
5C, Ms. Erin Griffin has completed a USDA grant pre-application that would allow the county to purchase 2 new ambulances and pay only $55,000 per unit, which would be the county's 25% match for the USDA grant. Board action to authorize the chairman's signature on the USDA grant that should be pre-application for the purchase of 2 new ambulances that will be paid from the healthcare surtax.
Pleasure to vote.
So moved.
Second.
Got a motion on the floor by Commissioner Jones, second by Commissioner Parrish. Any more discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? That passed.
5D, I'm sorry, sir.
Go ahead.
5D, inform the board that based on the motion at your August 20th meeting, I inform Mr. Joe Bynum of Trojan Granite, who are the architects of the Weems new facility, to pause the process for the guaranteed maximum price from Culpeper until he gets further direction from the board. That should be, I'm sorry, I wrote that wrong, but basically Culpeper was going to be the ones actually coming up with a guaranteed maximum price. So that whole process is on pause right now until there's some more action by this board, and I then will inform Mr. Bynum. E, inform the board that Mr. Bynum was able to get a day from ARCA for the Stage 2 stand-up review. If the board recalls, when Mr. Bynum appeared at the July 8th workshop to discuss the Weems new facility project, he explained that ARCA was planning on adopting new codes and regulations after December 31st, 2019. And if the county didn't have a stage 2 stand-up review before that date, it would add to the overall new facility project cost. As a time-saving measure, Mr. Bynum submitted a fee summary proposal for both projects, the ARCA review and the GMP, which the board approved by motion. As I stated in my previous report item, he will not proceed with the GMP portion of that proposal until he gets further directions from the board. Item 6.
Can we
Similar-
talk about,
Oh,
excuse me,
sorry.
about that ARCA review?
Uh-huh.
You're saying that he's just gonna give us a fee to do that, but we're not agreeing whether he should do it or not. ARCA wants us to, we're supposed to consider the current standards of hospital construction under ARCA right now. And if we don't, and we move into the end of December, into first of next year, those standards change. What are we to do about this point you're making then? What are we supposed to, are we asking Mr. Bynum to proceed with a fee for developing the facility under ARCA standards?
You done already done that, ain't you?
Yeah, when you made the motion to approve, I mean, loosely, y'all said GMP, but actually, if you remember, Mr. Bynum said we're doing two things concurrently.
Yeah.
One was the GMP, the other was the ARCA standard 2 review. And he explained that if we didn't do it this year, it would end up costing us more money next year because then the new standards and
I knew
rules and
that.
regulations that we have to go back.
Right.
And I'm not so much sure about how much about construction because Commissioner, the plans are pretty current. I think that they would have to go and review the plans based on the new rules. And so your consultants, I guess if I could say, your architect, your engineer, they have to review it from scratch. They're gonna have charging you to re-review plans they already did based on the new rules and regulations. So to avoid that extra cost, we were fighting to get the stand-up review this year, this calendar year, so that we wouldn't incur that cost if we waited until next year.
And I understand it.
Okay.
We don't know the model that we're looking at going forward at all. That's why we put a pause on the gross maximum price. We may build something entirely different than what ARCA is reviewing currently.
Well, and if you don't, then Commissioner, then you don't need the stand-up review from ARCA. Then you'll have to, whatever, if you decide to change the plans that we have, then you're right, we will have to do another review all over again for a different style of building. But I mean, I'm sorry because, and if it's my misunderstanding, y'all correct me, I thought the motion was just to put a stop on the GMP because y'all didn't want the GMP affecting the 3 health hospitals that would come in here and make presentations. That's what I understood. I thought you guys are still in agreement that we wanted to get this stand-up review done before the end of the calendar year to save money if we're going to proceed with the building plans that we have. If I misunderstood, somebody tell me.
Well,
It's a money,
let me ask you a question. This ARCA thing, what we're doing, most important part is it to get the old hospital grandfathered in too.
I'll have to ask. The only intentions we're using the ARCA review, the old building, if we move forward with plans, the old building will be used for administration.
I know it.
Yeah, I guess maybe so, Commissioner, but I'll have to check with Mr. Bynum to get it. I want to make sure I answer you correctly, so I would ask, I think I can say yes, but I want to make sure, so.
But if it's not in this plan before they change that mean that old building gonna have to come up with new standards.
Maybe, now I see what you're saying, maybe,
Yeah.
Commissioner.
That's what I understood too.
Yeah, you might have a
I'm not
point.
gonna ask, but that's what I understood.
Yeah, you might have a point there,
I
Commissioner.
mean, you might need to
I'll
talk
verify
to
that
Ms.
and get
Shepherd
back to
on
you.
this.
And you know, I think it's okay not to have ARCA review right now. We may move forward into next year with an entirely new modern set of plans with up-to-date standards of practice and building codes that, I mean, the whole world of Florida doesn't stop because ARCA is going to have new design changes in January of next year. And I don't think we should either. We should have open flexibility, save our money, and be thinking about what our entire healthcare plan is going to look like in Franklin County, including this new facility.
Ms. Shepherd, can you come up here?
Well, I'll be honest, Commissioners, I did not get that from the motion that you made at the last meeting.
No, the motion I made was to stop the GMP because we're gonna get presentations from, I'm sorry, Mr. Chairman. We're gonna get presentations from different entities that might wanna partner with us. And I didn't want that field to be tainted by, we're building XYZ building and this
Yeah.
is what you gotta do. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And if it took 3 months longer to do, I didn't want us to have to pay for a GMP twice, because now it's somehow expired because it took 3 months too long, so.
Yeah.
That was the motion I made.
The good thing with the ARCA review, once it's done, it's done. I think it's good for a year plus, if I'm not mistaken. So once you get it done, you have that in your back pocket. You don't have to worry about it.
You're locked
again.
in at those
That's right.
standards.
You're locked in. That's
You're
the
locked
term,
in at those
Commissioner.
standards.
That's right. And so you don't have to go back and spend more additional money, I should say, next year if you do it then. And I know how this board feels about the consultants. I mean, you guys have raised Cain about that over and over again. So I thought that was good. I thought that was the whole reason behind getting the ARCA review done in this calendar year.
Can you explain something about that ARCA?
I can explain a little bit, sir. The ARCA review in November would be for the current plans that have been drafted. And as Mr. Marone stated, it would allow those plans to be locked in place for a year. And at that point in time, and those current plans include the old hospital. At that current time, that a year passes, no change, then they would expire and you would start over at square one.
So if they change their code, is that something like a code?
Yes, sir. It's building codes and regulations.
So if they change it and we not under that, with the old building, what have?
Well, anything that has to be redone would have to be done up to code of current standards.
That's what I thought.
I think what I'm getting to, Nicole, which I didn't think about, what they're asking is that if the old hospital is part of it, let's say, well, is there a possibility that next year codes could affect the current building we're in now, the old building? Is that a possibility?
If we go to do construction in the old building.
Okay.
If the old building remains the same, there's no structural changes, there's no walls being knocked out, no doors being added, then it will have no effect. If it changes, then it will. Yes.
Yes, oh, so that kind of answers your question. Thank you.
All
Mr.
right,
Chairman, I just don't think we know where we're going on this whole picture. Why do we need to spend money as a placeholder when we're not even sure what the place looks like?
Well, you already done spent the money. You told the man to start the work. And I'm quite sure he's gonna charge you something. For what, we got to pay him something anyway.
Well, we'll pay him something for where he's come to, but not the whole thing.
How much did he say he's gonna charge us?
When you're talking, Mr. Chairman, when he's in it, when Mike was reading that, when he's talking about the I'm trying to find it right here. But when he was talking about the fee structure, he's not talking about us. Mr. Bynum submitted a fee summary proposal for both projects. Not the fees he's charging us, he submitted a fee summary proposal. That is totally different than what he's charging us to actually submit this stuff.
Well, I could tell you that by not doing the GMP, right off the top, you're saving $65,000 of that $200,000 that he proposed. Now, how much of that, if you could save any, by you made a motion today not to continue with the ARCA review? I mean, I heard you, Nicole, you reported at the last meeting, you already got the acoustic consultant.
Yes.
So that's already done. And I think the ARCA stand-up is here coming up within 60 days, the appointment, I believe.
November 20th.
So I'm not sure, but Commissioner, I feel by now he's done most of this work already as it relates to the ARCA stand-up review.
Right.
So
That just locks us in, so that don't cost us more money if we decide to move forward
Yes, that was the.
with the current building structure. If we move to something else, then that's a moot point. But, you know, when are we supposed to be meeting with these three entities? When is that going on?
I'm trying my best to get it set up. I unfortunately wasn't able to talk to one of the entities thus far because of last week. But I'm trying to set it up so they should have something to us by October 1st, and we could schedule the 3 separate workshops during the month of October, and this board could make a decision by the end of October as to which direction we're gonna go in. That's what I'm hoping for. That's the schedule I'm gonna work by.
Okay, I mean, and that's fine, because I want to see it move along. I don't want to keep dragging it out.
Yeah.
Uh,
And at that point, you could decide about your GMP commissioners after you've had your 3 workshops with the 3, I'm gonna keep saying entities, or healthcare entities.
I'm sorry about that, Mr. Walker, you could have come up too, 'cause I didn't mean just, you put your input.
Well, I think, you know, as you look at the healthcare system in this county, the ARCA review would be something to be pretty much simple to complete, because they're pretty much like 90% done, maybe, 75% done of that anyway, so you're looking at only 25% to go. So I think this is very important, even when we meet with the 3 entities, you know, of course, we'll let them know what we're looking for, but they can let us know what they're looking for also. So I think this is just a point, you know, just to close the chapter on it, instead of leaving it out there.
Oh, so you think we're about 75% through with the ARCA review anyway, relative to the architect?
Yeah, just because, that's just my thought. And
I see
some
how
of the
far
things
we've
we're looking
committed
at,
then.
paperwork, right?
Yeah, yes, sir, to add to what the CEO was saying, that's what I was trying to explain earlier, is that he already has a date, and he already been through most of the things on the checklist, because if you remember,
I see.
Ms. Sheppy reported to you of 2 or 3 of those things on that checklist,
Okay.
Commissioner. So that's what I was.
Now I
a little
understand.
puzzled
If
here.
we're that far down the road, then I guess we'd be really foolish to waste the money further.
Yeah, that's all.
I see what you're saying. I did not know that.
Okay, all right, Commissioner, I'm sorry if I didn't express that.
Okay.
I apologize. So we're good?
Did we need to have another, any vote or anything? We're just pressing
No,
on that?
That was
Okay.
information for you, to let you
Okay.
know that where he was.
Informational, all right.
Yeah, probably the next meeting, Ms. Sheppy will have more information for you, and I'll let her present it, okay? All right, okay, cool. So, item 6, similar to the purchase of the ambulances, Ms. Griffith has also completed the, thank you all, the USDA grant pre-application, I should
Thank
keep
you.
saying that, for fire sprinkler suppression system installation, interior painting, and replacement of a certain section of the roof at Fort Coombs Armory. The county's match for this approximate $850,000 project will be $212,500. To meet the match requirement, the county will use the State Fire Marshal Office $100,000 grant, $100,000 set aside by TDC last year, hopefully they still have it in their budget somewhere, and a recent legislative appropriation. Board action to authorize the chairman's signature on the USDA grant pre-application for the Armory upgrades.
So moved.
Got a motion on the floor by Commissioner Parrish, second by Commissioner Massey. Any more discussion on that? So that's all we're gonna do this year on that?
Yeah.
That should be
The
everything.
Armory.
I think that's close to finishing it up. We've already done the floor, we have the HVAC, we've done most of the windows. There might be some more windows that Mark might be able to explain to the board more that might need to be replaced.
What about the painting? But
This
floor
includes the
not-
painting.
This include the paint?
It doesn't, Mr. Chairman, it doesn't include the resurfacing of the floors in the place.
No, it does not.
And it doesn't include the landscaping we were gonna do outside and the fixing of the sidewalks there in the front of the
Yeah.
armory. So I mean, there's still some things to do, but, you know, we could complete those tasks a little here and a little there. These are most of the money projects right here.
Yeah,
That's gonna require a lot of funding.
yeah.
And this is financially a wash for us, isn't it? Because of the other 2 entities,
Yes, sir?
financially, good.
Yes, so we have most of the match, sir, so we're gonna proceed. Now, if we have to knock anything off, we'll figure it out. One thing we're going to do for sure is this sprinkler system. I'm sorry, we
Yeah.
just got to get that done.
Oh, yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
we're only gonna be $12,500 short after we take these 2 grants, and then a recent legislative appropriation is the
Okay.
$750,000 they talked about this morning. So if we have to take 12.5 out of there,
Shouldn't hurt.
you still got $737,000 there, so, for the match for the Alligator Point.
Alligator Point.
That's correct.
Yes, sir. That's
So, I mean, it looks like the money's there and we need to move forward.
Get that 12 from the TDC too.
Is a motion been made? I make a motion, we proceed with
There's a
that.
motion and second already.
There's a motion
I
and
thought
second
there
on
was.
the floor.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah. We hadn't voted yet. All right, any more discussion? Y'all ready to vote? All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? I pass unanimous.
Elect Chairman Lockley. Item 7, at your August 20th regular meeting, request for qualification package for the design of the widening and resurfacing of County Road 38 from US Highway 98 to 13 Mile Road were open and read aloud. There were 4 firms that submitted package for ranking by the review committee: Dewberry, Genesis, Half, George and Associates, and Gordemoller. Keep pronouncing that wrong, I think. Based on the scores of the review committee, Genesis Half was ranked number 1, Dewberry number 2, George and Associates number 3, and Gordemoller number 4. Board action to accept the review committee rankings and start negotiations with Genesis Half.
Pleasure to vote.
So moved.
Second.
Got a motion on the floor by Commissioner Jones, second by Commissioner Harris. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? That pass unanimous.
Item 8, the Franklin County Homecoming Parade will be held on Friday, September 27th, on Highway 98 from Old Ferry Dock Road to 2nd Street at East Point. The Franklin County Sheriff's Office will work with the schools to assist with parade and the detour route. Board action to approve the closing of Highway 98 and the adjoining streets for the parade.
Moved.
Second.
A motion on the floor by Commissioner Jones, second by Commissioner Parrish. When is the homecoming, 27?
Yep,
Yeah, it's a little early this year.
yeah, it is.
Okay.
Well, I can explain to you, Mr. Chairman, I can explain to you why it is. They've changed the whole structure of the district that the school is in now. They've changed the whole North Florida as its own separate thing now as far as football is concerned. So they're playing a 7-game regular season, then they'll go into district tournaments, which can be up to 3 games long. And then, you know what I mean? So, yeah.
And homecoming depends
Yes.
on the football
Yeah,
schedule.
yeah,
I got
yeah,
it. Okay, cool.
Yeah, so that's exactly what it is.
All right.
Wow.
All
Good
in
to know.
favor?
Aye.
All opposed? That pass unanimous.
Another thing that's a little early this year is your Florida County Legislative Delegation. That's scheduled for Monday, September 23rd at 6 p.m. right here in this meeting room. I'm in the process of reviewing last year's legislative requests, and we'll review the list with each of you before our next regular meeting. So I want each of you to know what we submitted last year, what we don't need to submit. Do you guys want something new? Let me try and get that list together, and then I'll present it to you as one list here at your next meeting, which will still be before the 23rd, and you guys can approve it or not.
Okay.
And then remember, you guys had to come here and kind of meet your new representative, Jason Schoaf, and Senator Mumford. Good? Good. All right, then. And inform the board that Opportunity Florida will be having their next monthly meeting right here in Franklin County. Also in this room, this meeting will be on September 25th from 12 noon to 2 p.m. This will be right here, some, that they haven't done in quite some time. Good to hear.
Okay.
And the best news of the day, to remind you that your first budget public hearing is this evening at 5:15, right here in your meeting room. And anything else, Madam Clerk? Well, she's been helping me out all day, so I might as well ask her.
Well, on that, you said we about $12,000. Let's go back to that Army a minute. I want to ask a question.
Yes, sir?
We about $12,000 short. That we might be. You don't know yet. But don't that place make that kind of money in a year though? I mean, for the rent.
I'll have to go look. Actually, I have a spreadsheet now, very good spreadsheet that we have that tracks our appointment, how much money we made.
But it will make it, if it didn't, don't, well, oh, by and by,
Yeah,
down the line.
down the line, yeah.
Well, I think, Mr. Chairman, I think the fees are based on the energy consumption to run those air conditioners all weekend at that armory.
Originally, that's why we raised the fees, correct, yes,
So you have, all that has to come out of those fees.
Yeah,
yeah.
And of course, I don't look at how many times it rented this year and how much you actually profited from that, but
Yeah.
when you take out the fees of electricity at that place, based on the number of times you rented, then you
Yeah.
can get a true reading, which I don't have access to all that information, but could you bring us,
sure
something at the
could.
next board meeting as to what the energy cost has been and,
Just bring an overall, report, like.
Yeah.
Income statement, I guess.
yeah, if you have one from one year to the year to date, is what we need. We don't need a month, you know, we need a year. If that hadn't been a year, then obviously we can't get that information, but
I believe with the paint job, it might rent a little more.
all the improvements that we continue to make into it are helping to increase the overall use by the public.
The best one was the HVAC system.
Yes,
HVAC
indeed,
system.
especially
I'm
this
sorry.
time of year,
Yeah,
especially this time of year.
I don't know, it seems like we're hotter longer,
Exactly.
you know.
It has definitely been hotter.
Yeah.
So they got a few competition places now.
We do.
But don't they rent that old ice house down there for events, stuff like that?
The bar, I didn't know.
No, not the
Across
bar.
on the riverfront?
Mhm.
No, they hadn't rented it.
Oh.
They don't rent it for anything.
I heard
It's
somebody-
actually for sale, I believe.
I heard somebody say they were gonna have a wedding down there.
They may
Oh.
have.
Okay.
I think that's it for me, Commissioners, unless you have something else.
Anybody got
Oh,
anything?
I'm sorry, no, I'm sorry, one more thing. God, he's been so patient. Mike Krell, he just, I meant to put in my report about a simple reminder of what this board did last year. He wanted to remind you of the date for this year. Your POW MIA recognition date.
Yeah.
Mike, you're just gonna sit there and let me just walk away?
Yes, sir, I'll just let you do it, yes, sir.
Thank you.
And I know we sent it by email to each of you, but I think I have them, he made copies for me to hand out too.
Yes, sir.
Just wanted to remind you of that date, Commissioner.
POW, yeah, that's important.
So Franklin County has adopted a resolution to allow these posters
gotta
produced
give
by
me
the DPAA.
You gotta give me your name again.
I'm
for
sorry,
the record.
Michael Crail,
Okay.
citizen here in Franklin County. Regarding POW MIA Recognition Day that's set for September 20th of every year, the DPAA is producing these posters each year annually. They'll change up each year. Y'all have agreed to allow these posters to go into the county offices, buildings, to bring awareness to this special day. It represents over 400,000 casualties that we had during World War II, not to mention the fact that the DPAA has been tasked with bringing back the remains of the more than 72,000 unidentified casualties that we have out there. Some families are still, as in mine, is still today, wondering and looking for and hoping to one day bring the remains of their loved one back to America. There, just to give you an idea, and Manila has over 4,000 containers that are described as X-files that hold remains of American soldiers in them, unidentified at this point, simply because we need to get to the family members to give DNA samples so that DPAA can get out there, find remains, make identification between existing family members today with the soldiers that are in the ground. So it's a very long, arduous process that's taking place here, and the fact that you all are willing to acknowledge the day by allowing us to put the posters out there is a great benefit to everyone involved.
Pleasure to board.
Thank you, Mike.
Thank you.
Yeah, we didn't need a motion, we got this last year already, Commissioner.
Yes, sir.
You're
Yeah.
right, so he just reminding you that you did do this last year.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
You're
So
doing a
just,
good
this is just
job.
to introduce you to this year's poster, and we'll need to do it again next year, because they will change it every year.
You're doing a good job. Thank you for
Thank
your
you.
service on that.
Thank you all, appreciate it.
Michael, is there an event going to happen on September 20th that we should be aware of?
So there is nothing scheduled. It is a national day of recognition, so the posters will be out there to help prod the community. Y'all are aware of it firsthand now as our leaders. We have some press that will get out there too. It's just to bring bring the community to the awareness of the fact that we have unidentified service personnel out there waiting to be returned. The process is very arduous, like I said, because we're 80, just about 80 years removed now. We have to go to families, get DNA samples, and proceed on. It's like I say, very arduous process. It's very interesting, and y'all are part of it. We all are. As American heritage, we are all a part of it.
And Michael, you've been here all day patiently. Do you have a family member involved here, and how do we?
Yes, sir. My grandfather is part of 62 American airmen that were killed on May 26th in a POW camp in Tokyo, Japan. The process there was the men were killed. It was an atrocity that took place. The bodies were put into a mass grave. When occupying forces came in to Japan, they were able to identify 25 of the men, of the 62 men in a mass grave. Those remains went home. They all brought closure. The other 37, of which our family is part of that, are still waiting to find out. And, science has brought us to the point that they can take a DNA sample from any one of us in this room now and find out our family history. But in our case, we're doing with the identification is they have remains, they don't know who they belong to. So they need families that had soldiers to come forward with DNA samples so that they can proceed on with the next process. And in our case, we had 62 men, so we're required, or we've been asked to contact 60% of that. Some 37 families of the 62 men is what we're out after now, and we managed to get 26 over the last 2 years, managed to get 26 in line with samples. So we're getting closer in our particular case with the 62. There are individuals out there in Taraway and Palaloo that they're bringing back regularly, and because of this mass database of families coming forward and giving the samples, they are able to get remains from the grounds and identify them and bring them back. Daily, we're getting soldiers back daily, currently, from Asia. It's an amazing process, and like I say, we're all living it here right now, unbeknownst to most folks, because, I mean, 72,000 is a big number. It affected millions of Americans to not have an answer.
Excuse me.
Beyond that, we have 400,000 perished in the fighting too, which leads us all to our abilities to do what we're doing here today. Sit at these commission meetings, have these jobs, sit patiently waiting for one day. Yes, sir.
Thank you very much, and you're doing a good job.
Thank you. I'll be visiting your businesses.
Thank you, Mike.
Keep up the good work. Next on the agenda will be Mr. Michael Schuler.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I only have one action item on my report for the board's consideration. It's a long report. I will go into as much or as little detail as the board directs, but in summary, I had a meeting with a representative last week of the Humane Society. The issue is their stated intention and objective of blocking access to the public gun range on Highway 65. I believe the effective date, I've been told, I haven't seen the sign personally, but I'm told the effective date for that closure will be September 15th, 2019. During that meeting, that's part of an ongoing conversation I've had for a resolution. During that meeting, I was informed that there is no compromise to be had, that they are standing, paraphrasing, on their property rights. They want to close off the current access road through the property, which was deeded to them by Franklin County back in 87 or 88 for a Humane Society, or actually an animal shelter purpose on 2.38 acres. The road meanders outside of the fence of the landfill, but through the Humane Society property back to the gun range. And as far as I understand, they are intending to close that off for public access. I have looked at alternates to litigation to see if there's a way to provide an alternate access route. I'm still waiting on some information from the road department, but I don't have any reason to believe that's going to alter the conclusion that there really is no meaningful alternate access to be provided to the gun range. So I'm asking the board for your permission to pursue the county's legal remedies to compel the reopening of that road should in fact it be closed off to the public.
Wait a minute, let me ask you a question.
Yes, sir.
We gave them that property,
Yes, sir.
and they walk in here and tell us they gonna cut off the public from seeing it. But they got the audacity to come in here and ask for monies, cut off the money. They cut off the road, we cut off their money. That's the way I see it.
Mr. Chairman?
Mm.
On one paragraph here you have written out, Mr. Schuler, it says, since the Humane Society moved to the gun range and not the other way around, it is questionable in my mind for them to accept public property for free, accept public tax dollars to operate it, and then claim that the pre-existing road and the gun range interfere with their operation. Now, the way I read that is the gun range was there first,
Was.
Yeah.
Everything.
right? The gun range, is that right? That's the way.
That's my understanding of the facts,
Okay,
Commissioner.
that's, I mean, I'm just going by what you got written here. I mean, if the gun range was there
Gun range
first, and then
And we
we
gave them the road.
give them the property to build a Humane Society building, but also, doesn't it say that the county's animal control, building is located there too? On that 2.3 acres?
According to the report I got from Mr. Davis, at least part or possibly all of the animal control buildings on that 2.38 acres.
So basically, this was a piece of county property that we had a gun range on, the county's animal control building is there, plus the Humane Society building is there. So they accepted basically the gun range when they decided to make that the home of the Humane Society on that same parcel of land.
That's how I understand the facts to lay out, Commissioner Parrish.
I think we ought to take their part of that money there. Well, we gain them 75, but how much money we getting?
50.
Oh, I have no idea.
We'll find out this evening. because we're gonna do the budget hearing.
Okay.
We giving them $50,000, they gonna stop the public from using the road, but they want us to give them money. We gave them a land. And they should be working with us a little better, I think, you know. They wanna act like, if they wanna act like that, don't give them no money. They wanna be,
Now, there has been some inappropriate shooting at targets that are on there were some things that they were concerned about that the shooters are doing wrong.
Yes, sir, and if those facts are correct, because
Yeah.
I don't have any personal knowledge, but this is what I was
Yeah.
told. People are shooting things like television sets
Yeah.
and other inappropriate targets, making a mess. I mean, that's a legitimate complaint, but I don't
Sure.
know that it's legitimate from the Humane Society viewpoint because they don't operate the gun range. I mean, that's a county
Yeah.
operation. We clean it up, not them. Their concern mainly is the noise.
Noise
from the
factor
guns,
scaring the
everything.
dogs.
I'm told the gun range is not consistently used on a routine daily basis throughout the year. It's more of a seasonal usage.
Yeah.
I mean, there may be some people that go out on a fairly regular basis, but mainly it's a seasonal use is my understanding.
Should we be building a berm maybe between the gun range and the Humane Society? Would there be anything there for that?
Commissioner, I'll say this, I will say to you what I said to their representative, and it was sort of tongue-in-cheek, but it was a
Yeah.
legitimate entry point for the negotiations, which is you walk in, you go, I surrender, how can we work this out?
Yeah.
And the response I got was, there's no compromise.
Oh.
There's no middle
Yeah.
ground. They're going to stand on their property rights, and they do not want people crossing over what they view as their private property without their permission. So that's why I felt compelled to bring this to the board today with a request that you authorize me to examine the facts and the law, determine a legal theory moving forward, assuming that is your wishes, to keep that gun range open using that access road, because there really is not a meaningful alternate access road. The only realistic alternative would be to have people go through the landfill, but the hours of usage would be limited to
Dangerous.
the hours of operation of the landfill,
Yeah.
which is too restrictive for the hunting public and
And it's
therefore
dangerous too.
unreasonable.
or do the sheriff department use that gun?
No, they have their own.
The sheriff's department has their own range. In fact, it was suggested to me that alternate access could be provided through the sheriff's department property, but as this board well knows, the sheriff, in the not too recent or too distant past, has said he does not want the public traveling through his parking lot for security purposes. I mean, you had people, I think, throwing, allegedly throwing drugs and
That's
other
right.
paraphernalia that was
That's right.
inappropriate over the fence and into the ground. So I would not even dare to go ask the sheriff to provide general unregulated public access through the sheriff's department, because I suspect I know the answer will be no.
I think we should cut off the money. Now, they'll have I believe they'll change their mind. I mean,
Mr. Chairman, having spoken with that sheriff a few months back, if y'all remember, he would come to us about taking some pine trees out behind the sheriff's department. He was going to create a gun range back there, which he would allow the public access to. Now, we've been looking, attorney's been looking also to find somebody to come remove those trees, and they're so bombarded with these big acre tracts with, after Hurricane Michael and trying to get all that cleaned up, they're not willing to come in here for a couple of acres to clean it off. That's not enough for them to come here for. But that is an alternative in the future. But if you remember the last time Fonda came here and said they closed up the gun range, man, people went off the chain. My phone was ringing off the hook, because I'm sure everybody else's was, because people had no access to go shoot. So I would like to see the Humane Society work with us on this until we can get those trees removed behind the sheriff's department. And the sheriff said he would allow the public access, but he would also have a person there to kind of look over the gun range so that they're not bringing TVs and all these other things into the gun range. And that's an alternative for us, but we don't have one yet. And you got to understand that hunting season's opening up here in about a month and a half, and people are going to need a place to go shoot. So if we allow them to shut this gun range down, well, we're going to probably have a boardroom full of people, angry people, that they can't go target practice or they can't sight their guns in for hunting season. So it's going to lead into a big confrontation between us and the public as to where can they go shoot their guns. And we've looked at a lot of different options for the county to try to do something better for a gun range, but the best solution is behind the sheriff's department, where he's going to have a paid person there overseeing that to keep people from bringing in TVs and all these other targets that people bring in that are no longer no good, with glass scattered everywhere. So he was looking at providing that service for some of the citizens once we get all these trees out. But that ain't gonna happen next month, and that's when hunting season comes up. So I just want to put that out there for the board. So if somebody's going to have to make a motion to give the attorney direction which way to go. So
it's like this
I'll
with
make a
me.
motion, you talk to them, that we can use that access till we get a way to get in there.
I got a
Talk to the
motion
Humane
on,
Society or talk to the judge?
The main side.
he's already talked to them, they won't budge.
Yeah, talk to, try to negotiate with them.
I'll follow whatever directions the board tells me to follow. If you want me to go back to the Humane Society and make a further attempt, then I will do so in good faith.
cut off their money. That's how
But
you
we're not
gonna.
gonna have another meeting before the 14th. 15th.
We got one today. We got one of these.
I don't know when the Humane Society meets. I'd have to ask.
Where's the date on here says September 15th when they
Oh,
block the access?
Yes.
Well, we meet again on the 17th.
Yeah.
But we got a budget here in the season, we can cut off their money today.
You'll also have that option on the 17th.
Well, 17.
When is the second budget meeting?
17th.
17th?
Yep.
Yeah, and Mr. Chairman, I appreciate what you're saying, but just from a strategic, since I would be the person having to litigate this matter, I would rather let them be the one to throw the first punch, so to speak, in closing the road. And then if they do that and they follow through with it, then the board will have time to make whatever decision you want to make on funding matters. What I'm seeking is some authority to begin formally the process of doing some legal research and factual investigation to make sure that if we need to file a lawsuit on September 16th, that we're ready to go.
So moved.
Second.
I got a motion on the floor by Commissioner Parrish, second by
Everybody.
all three.
Everybody, everybody.
All three of the commissioner. Discussion, yeah. But what it boils down to, the animals got more rights than the people. That's not right. I mean, I don't have a dog in the fight, and I don't have a rifle to go zero in on. But they not right.
No, we can't shut that down.
No. Any more discussion?
Just a clarification for me, Mr. Chairman, this motion would include, because we don't meet again until the 17th, if they actually close the road on the 15th, does this motion include the authority for me to file the lawsuit right after that, or you want me to wait until the 17th and come back?
I made the motion based on your recommendation. If that's included in your recommendation.
That is part of the recommendation,
Okay,
yes. sir.
there you go.
We good with it.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, Commissioner Parrish.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? That passed unanimously.
Attorney Schuler, just, I go parenthetically, aside from the legal side, they probably can see it on TV, but let the Humane Society know we really are thinking about this, and we're trying to think of alternatives. We're not just being arrogant here.
Yes, sir. I will communicate
subjective.
That sentiment and Commissioner Parrish's specific thoughts on the matter.
Yeah.
Tell them
to
mine
Mr.
too.
Hayes.
Yeah.
Make sure you tell them mine about cutting off the money.
I think they may hear that tonight before I have a chance to speak to Commissioner Hayes.
The 17th is coming shortly.
Commissioner Hayes,
reckon.
yes, sir.
All right. Anybody,
Unless y'all have any questions for me on the non-action items.
anybody got anything else for Mr. Schuler? Commissioner comment?
Just a couple, if I could, Mr. Chairman. Relative to the comments we had today about speed limit changes, I think we've figured out we're not going to get involved right now in expensive engineering of roads, and we're going to continue to let the sheriff do his job. And as a consultant, the sheriff, if there's a focal point of really issues on speeding, then he can come to the board and talk about speed changes, and that type of thing. Because I'm hearing that issue relative to Parker Avenue in Lanark Village, very big concern there. You saw the issues we had with speed bumps that were put in voluntarily there. And then, of course, I'm hearing system-wide at Alligator Point, the speeding concerns there. So just wanted to let that happen. And, you know, Commissioner Parrish, I just wanted to honor the fact that your insight and insight in the airport and how it's going there and everything. There continues to be a plea from folks that want to develop a citizens advisory board at the airport. And these are knowledgeable aviators who have a lot of background information and knowledge in that area. And if it's appropriate to consider that, why, I just wanted to reemphasize how well it's working at a city airport, Carabel, not county airport. And we've seen this, an advisory committee do wonders in that for bringing in money and organization there. Just a thought.
I hear you.
Okay.
I hear you, but you gotta remember, that's my district.
It is. I
I
realize.
represent everybody that lives around that airport. I've been here my whole life. So I'm very attuned not only to what the airport needs are and what we expect at the airport, and we want to generate jobs at the airport and all these different things, but I also understand what those people that live around that airport, what they expect. It's not all about the airport, it's about the community as a whole. And all these people you're talking about wanting to get involved, none of them live around that airport. None of them are affected by anything that happens at that airport. They don't live there. So they're not attuned with the community that lives around that airport. And it's a long ways from Carabel.
Mhm.
And I know what the people want. I've been here when the people loaded this room up and said, shut the airport down. Shut it down. Well, it ain't shut down. It still functions. But we have to work within what the community wants to see and what the community expects, and also what this board expects for that airport to provide for us from an economic standpoint. So it's not all about the airport. It's about the people allowing the airport to stay there. Anybody here can tell you, Attorney Schuler can tell you how full this building was last time they come in here and said, shut it down. Okay, shut it down. We didn't shut it down. It's still working today. It's functioning pretty well because my phone does not ring about they're out of fuel or they're not operating the airport the way they should. We got an excellent FBO operator out there. And some of these people that call themselves friends of the airport are more adversarial than they are friends of the airport. Calling the FDOT, that Franklin County's not doing this right, Franklin County's not doing that right. Well, Franklin County's been operating ever since they gave, the state gave it back to us, and it's still open and functioning. So rather than working with our FBO operator and our airport manager, they're more adversarial than that. And for them to come here today and suggest that you be appointed to a committee in the airport that's in my district, that'd be like me going to all the after meetings and telling Mr. Burke, stay home.
Yeah.
It's not gonna happen, Mr.
Yeah.
Burke. That's
Yeah.
your district and your responsibility. You're duly elected by those people in that district. And for them to call me and want me to be on something over there, that's Mr. Burke's district. Ever since you've been elected, I backed off of everything at Alligator Point because that's your job. That's your responsibility. Before you were there, as a chairman, I was going over there trying to take care of this road. I'm the one that got FCMA involved and try to bring help to fix that road over there. I'm no longer the chairman, and you got elected. Then I've relinquished that duty to you and being respectful of you and your district. And I expect the same respect in my district.
And I do. I wanted to just have the opportunity for you to voice that point, because I think
Well, I mean-
there needs to be a demarcation.
It's just like Serenity over in Commissioner Jones's district. I didn't jump ahead of Mr. Jones.
Yeah.
Commissioner Jones, that's his district. Those people over there elect him to represent them. Yeah, we all have a vote,
Yeah.
but when it's in his area, he's the leader of that area. And I look to him for, Commissioner Jones, how do you feel about that? That's your area, you represent those people on the island and in Eastport, Florida. So we, as a board here, have always deferred to the commissioner of that district. Because he should be more informed about what's happening in his own district than I am over here in Appalachia as far as you and Alligator Point. And that's the way I look at it, and I would appreciate we all have the same respect for each other, and that's the way we do things when it's in a certain commissioner district.
Yeah.
We look to them for their leadership and their advice, because those are the people that duly elect them people in that particular district. And that's just the way it is in Franklin County. We're single-member districts. And if you don't do what the people want you to do in your particular district, you probably won't be reelected. So I have to be protective of the people that elect me, and I know what they expect out of that airport. That's just like people coming in and landing at the airport and taking off. I've never got to complain about that. But when they go round and round that airport all night long, round and round, then I start hearing about it. When they start shaking people's paintings off their walls in their house, then I hear about it. You don't hear about it, but I do. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah, I do.
So you have to be respectful of commissioners in their respective districts, just as I'm respectful of you and your respective district. And that's just the way it is.
I appreciate that.
And it's not, I'm not adversarial, don't have no enemies at all with any of these people. Them doing a museum, that's fine. But I think the airport manager's doing an excellent job. And there are other people over here influencing things like that, because we've really never had a paid airport manager. We always paid them out of a grant. Well, all of a sudden, we can't do that no more. That's not under FDOT rule. But it worked for 20 years. Nobody said anything, so everything was good. When you start complaining, then the rules change. We do have a paid airport manager, and no, he does not live in Franklin County, but he's doing us an excellent job. And I support him at that, just as I support the FBO out there. I get no calls about how they operate, or they're out of fuel again, or they can't afford to buy the fuel. We've had all that right here. We even remember, Mr. Noel remembers when the airport running out of fuel. Well, it don't happen no more. Those are some good people we got out there. They're doing an excellent job, because my phone is not ringing the first time. Even former members of the ACC group, when we did have an airport advisory committee, none of those people have called me and said we need to start it back up. They're all pilots too. But none of them have rang my phone up to this day, because everything is going so smooth out there. If it ain't broke, don't fix it. That's the old,
Yeah.
you know. I mean, everything's working fine. Those are my comments on that situation.
Good. Thank you. I appreciate that.
Well, you know what? Shut it down and move the industrial park up 65, and that'll stop all that. That'll stop all that.
We don't have any property up 65.
You fine, I'm Theta Gill.
It's fireworks there.
Mr. Chairman, Mr. Chairman, I got a comment before we leave, if I may. I just want to remind this board, Visit Florida is doing 12 different community meetings in the state as an after thing for the governor's conference we're obviously not going to because it was canceled. It was supposed to start tomorrow down in Boca Raton. That's not where I want to be. But the 12th of September, here at the Armory, from 3 to 4, they are doing they selected this county as one of the places to do one of their 12 meetings in the state. So it's September 12th from 3 to 4. I want to make sure all you guys know that and the general public knows that.
Okay. Any more commissioner comment? Meeting adjourned, see y'all later.